I'd like to welcome Mystery Ranch as a sponsor to the Western Huntsman. This is a great product. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Mysterium line. Those packs include the Sawtooth 45, the Sawtooth 65, the Beartooth 85, and the Marshall 105, depending on what you're doing with the pack. If you from day pack to backcountry, plenty of space. I like what they wrote on the website. Between the disciplines of calculated preparation and in-the-moment focus, an intangible alchemy exists. We call it Mysterium. It is our most ambitious, tech-rich line of Mystery Ranch hunting packs constructed for the most methodical hunters. I'd agree with that. It's a great pack, guys. I really like the ventilation system. When you put it on, it's nice and tight, but you're still breathing a little bit less of that buildup between the pack and your back when you're sweating and out there packing through the mountains and whatnot. It's a super functional pack, very comfortable. Very good at carrying loads. I've been using it all spring between bear and just like I do a lot of rucking to keep in shape, and it has done a phenomenal job. I've got a lot of top-of-the-line packs out there, and I've always kind of geeked out with packs, but I really do like the weight distribution and the way that it allows you multiple options as to where you're going to either carry a water bladder or one of those Contigo containers or whatever you're going to use. Really impressed. I love the ease of how everything functions on it too. You don't need to watch a bunch of videos to figure out how to undo everything to pack a bunch of meat out. That's really important for a guy like me, I promise. I'm not super smart. So the simplicity, the comfort, the load distribution, it all makes for a wonderful backcountry hunting pack. If you are in the market, check it out at mysteryranch.com/mysterium. Experience the evolution of accuracy with the new Browning X-Bolt 2. Guys, this rifle is something else. With the introduction of the X-Bolt, Browning has set a new standard in the development of bolt-action rifles. It was created around the goal of total accuracy, where every component worked in unison to improve downrange performance straight out of the box, from windswept tundras to rocky peaks high above the tree line to African plains and everywhere in between. The X-Bolt delivered the tack-driving accuracy a Browning rifle is respected for. And that's super true, guys. I really like this rifle from a standpoint of, it's not super heavy, it's not super light. I put a really nice scope on it. I love that Veritech stock because that is one of those pieces of accuracy that, that interface between the rifle and the shooter. Not everybody's the same size. The DLX trigger, you can get the Plus magazine system for extra rounds. Great all-around rifle in the field. For those of you that are looking for a rifle this year to take to the field that you can feel real confident in and get really comfortable with, this is the rifle to check out. The Browning X-Bolt 2 should be one of your top contenders. Link is in the show notes. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tines studio right here in Northwest Montana, and brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journals, if I could spit that out correctly, because it's kind of I've been saying it a lot. It's a tongue twister. Every time I open up a show, I'm don't know where I'm going to go with it. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I know by the time this is released, a lot of the deer and elk seasons are going to be over, with the exception of some of these late season, archery and muzzleload hunts and some of the shoulder seasons. For elk and deer, and I'll probably be out chasing mountain lions, and so I hope everybody had a fantastic season. If you listened to last week's episode, you kind of heard a little bit about mine, and it's been 2025 has been a really good year for me. As of the date of this recording, it is November 24th, And so when I say last week's episode, I think that just came out today. And I'm still chasing my last like ungulate tag is a Montana elk. And I will be out the rest of this week. In fact, we are doing Thanksgiving on Saturday because of some family stuff that we have a bunch of family coming in this weekend. So it's going to give me the opportunity. I feel like I'm going to be the only one in the woods chasing elk all day on Thanksgiving Day, and it's going to be a good time. So anyway, guys, I want to introduce you to a new friend of mine. His name is Corey Groff, and he is going to be the new host of Predator Pros for Eastman's Hunting Journals and part of the family of podcasts. If you guys don't know, we've got a ton of podcasts at Eastman's, and they're all really good. We've got the Predator Pros one, obviously this one. Brian Barney does Eastman's Elevated, and he also does the one with Dan Picar, which is the Eastman's Bow Hunting, Life of a Bow Hunter, I believe is what it's called. And obviously, and then there's the Wingman podcast with Todd Helms that really focuses on waterfowl, upland game, stuff like that. So that is kind of the family of podcast. Oh, and Ike Eastman's has the Eastman's podcast as well, which he has really good discussions, more kind of like human-centric type topics and stuff like that. So Predator Pros, if you guys have been listening a while, you may have heard Jeff on the show a couple of years ago. And Jeff is moving on, and we are really excited about Corey joining the team here and hosting this podcast because Corey is a really prolific professional predator hunter. He's been linked up with Fox Pro for a long time. If you're on his Instagram, which is _Corey Groff, at _Corey Groff, you can scroll through there, and he's got a ton of content, much of it centered around predator hunting. So, Corey, that is about the best I could do. I'd rather have you introduce yourself, but first of all, I appreciate you joining me, man. This is going to be a good talk.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I'm excited to, get hit the ground running with Predator Pros and, meet everybody at Eastman's. It's an exciting time for me, and I hope I can do everybody well. So,
well, I think I think you are going to do well, and I tell you what, I know everybody's excited about it because the thing is like the topic of predator hunting and predator management,
mm-hmm. Right?
Predator management through hunting is a big deal. It's a big topic. It's a big.
It is.
I think that this podcast, Predator Pros podcast, is one that has yet to be fully exploited because everybody's interested in it. I don't care if you're only a whitetail hunter in the Midwest. If you're not keyed in and tied into predator hunting, or at least in support of, not necessarily in the act of predator hunting, but predator management, there's so many moving parts with it. That's the first thing that the anti-hunting movement will come after because it's like low-hanging fruit in their mind. It's the first thing everybody kind of pushes to the wayside a lot because they're like, oh, I'd like to go coyote hunting, for example, but they don't ever give it the time. They don't give it the level of importance that it is, or lion hunting. Like up here, lion hunting is a big deal because mountain lions, they wipe out a lot of our deer and elk populations, and bear hunting because of the same kind of thing. They're very effective at predation on fawns and calves in the springtime, and so there's just a lot of moving parts. So what I'd like to do is kind of kick it off with you giving us a little bit of like a snapshot of your background, who you are, and so it'll kind of bring us as to how Eastman's came about bringing Corey Groff on as a new host of a big podcast.
Okay. Well, I grew up in South Texas, was born and raised there until I was about 12 or 13 years old. We moved to Southern Missouri. My grandparents had a working cattle farm here in Southern Missouri, and it was just a plethora of hunting, for me. And I grew up hunting in South Texas. We did a lot of whitetail and stuff. So when we moved up here, I just had more elbow room to move around, and so obviously, it was whitetail we was hunting here. It was turkey. Really didn't get into the predator stuff until a few years later. And I got my first hand call when I was probably around that 13, 14 years old, and really didn't know what I was doing. It was just a closed reed predator call, like a rabbit squaller. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I ran everything off in the country with that thing, running around these hills. But, and then it was predator hunting for me. We always did it. Like I had this friend group, that we were just kind of weekend warriors, especially once, our deer seasons, went out of season, with bow season, ending in January. It's just that time of year. It's like, all right, well, what do we do now? So we predator hunted and crow hunted. And so that's really where I got my start, and where it just kind of, it was just like one of those, it just finally hit, it was like, man, I really like this. I think I'm going to take another step and just try to get better. And so that was around probably about my younger 20s when I just decided that I wanted to be a better predator hunter. And so really got into mouth calls. That was around that late 90s, early 2000s. Really got into hand calls. Really wasn't much into the electronics at that time. And I remember a buddy of mine had a Fox Pro, and we went out, did some calling, and I was like, man, that thing is a game changer. I've got
Yeah.
to get me one. So finally went out and got my first Fox Pro. And then after that, man, it was just like, I was just so infatuated with it. And it was just, having the technology of that tool to be able to, have a sound library that would just, you know, you had all these different animals to choose from, prey distresses and coyote howlers, and it just made it so much easier. I wouldn't say it was easy, but I think with my background with, just being growing up as a kid chasing squirrels and turkeys and stuff like that, it just, I don't know, it just clicked for me. And so I just kept advancing. And I don't know, it was probably around about age 30, maybe 35. Um, I just kind of got, in a new friend group with guys that were kind of in the industry, and one thing led to another. And I had to sit down and I had a conversation with the owner of Fox Pro, Mike Dillon, and
Mm-hmm.
brought me on the team. I think that was somewhere around 2012, 2011, 2012, somewhere's in there. Brought me on the team, and I just thought, man, this is great. And it's just been great ever since. It's just, I've traveled, all around different states and hunt for, coyotes, bobcats, coons. I love coon calling. That is one of
Sure.
my favorite things right now. It's kind of new in the industry. Coon calling is, but
Yeah, I was going to say,
uh,
I don't know if I've ever heard of that before.
yeah, it's I've always done it. I've done it for a long time because we've always had, those sounds and stuff in our library. And but it's just never really been I don't know, it was never really a thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I did it, and but now it just, I don't know, it just seems like it's the I think it's more the importance of it with predator management. Our turkey population is declining all over. I don't know what your guys' turkey population is like there. I hear it's really good in a lot of those
It's,
western states and stuff, but
yeah, currently right now, the turkeys are, I wouldn't say they're out of control, but, we don't have a big raccoon population here. And I think this is not coming from some, deep scientific level or something. It's just some dude that is kind of paying attention. I feel like
right.
we've had a wolf problem for a long time,
Hmm.
and I feel like the wolves have put a slight damper on the coyote population, and so our turkey population is just like exploding. I mean, they're like, I'm
Yeah.
finding them right now. I'm neck deep into whitetail season and elk season and all this kind of stuff. So I'm up high and I'm down low a lot. And there's turkeys
Right.
both up high and down low. I mean, they're in the back country. They're in my yard. They're just like everywhere. And so, so that's interesting. That's an interesting take. Are the raccoons, are like they a major problem right now in Missouri, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's a major problem all across the Midwest and, down into the Southeast. It's raccoons have been probably the number one predator, that preys on, clutches of eggs,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
turkeys.
absolutely.
And it's a huge problem here with the decline of fur prices, over the last 20, 30 years. A lot of people aren't trapping anymore. And it's really showing, and it's a definite problem here. And we can talk habitat, but habitat, I'm not against it. I'm all for, placing habitat back in, but it's such a longer process, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a
And
long game plan. So the quick turnaround is going to be that predator management for sure.
exactly. And I'm not going to say it's just, the raccoons. It's collectively, a broad predation problem, with also possums, and we've got a real high population of armadillos here, and it's, armadillos are known to, raid turkey nest as well, and skunks are a problem. So it's collectively, there's all kinds of predators in the mix, but raccoons, they're pretty hard on our turkeys right now,
Yeah.
all across this area. So
How do you call in a raccoon? I've never even thought of doing something like that. At the house we're at now, well, we call it a homestead because we try to live mostly off the land as much as we can between wild game meat and our garden and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
but we don't have like cows and goats and all that. So I don't know if you can consider it a homestead or not, but we call it the homestead. So anyway, I've only had one raccoon that we've seen here, and then I had something wipe out our flock of chickens while we were we were on vacation earlier this year, and came home. We had 16 chickens or something, and we came home to one. And
Wow.
I think it was a combination of a little black bear that's cruising around and a coyote and some coyotes. But then I talked to my neighbor, Rick, who lives kind of behind me. He's like, yeah, we've had this raccoon living under our shed. And I noticed he goes to your property and then he comes back and he finally got him. And our last remaining chicken survived until we found her a new home. I didn't want to bring in a bunch of new chicks till I could refortify the chicken coop. So we gave her to a buddy. But anyway, so those are the two things I've had with raccoons. So I'm super curious. I'd love to try to call one in next time I have a raccoon problem around here.
Yeah, well, for us, we've got such a dense population of them. It's kind of easy. Any raccoons are going to hang around any kind of water source, and of course, they den in trees. So if you could find, tracks around a good water source, and find a den tree that's local to that, you're going to probably call in a raccoon. And like I said, like just for an example, Foxborough, they have a very good library of raccoon sounds, and there's all different kinds. I mean, there's like raccoon pups distress, there's boar-coon fights, there's a bunch of them, and my favorite is leaning on the raccoon pup type sounds. Those seem to work really good. Yeah, so it's just basically a distress sound, and yeah, it's very effective. But if you have those two kind of things, that you can find tracks, find a den tree, you're probably going to call in a raccoon. So
okay, well, I'm gonna try it out, man. I'll hit you up. I'll have to get your number. Well, or I got your number. I'll like text you or something next time I have one show up around here.
check out my Instagram, because I just put some good content on there here a while back with some of us calling raccoons in, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, I think I found it. I think I can't play it because then it'll like pick up in the background noise here. But
yeah,
no, that's funny, man. It is, and I'm curious about, like, for you personally, with calling in predators, to give you I'll never forget the first coyote I called in. I was actually blown away. It was like you were saying, a little handheld mouth read deal, and I was doing like this rabbit in distress or whatever. And all of a sudden, out of the fog pops this coyote, and I popped him with a 30-06, and so it's like I've been kind of addicted to it ever since, and I really enjoy it. And
Oh yeah.
and so, but for me, anything hunting wise, I get way more excited if I can communicate with that animal and like fool it with a call. That's why I love
Yeah.
elk hunting in September. It's why I love whitetail hunting in November. I love calling in bears when I can. I love calling coyotes in, anything, turkeys, another one,
Mhm.
anything we could do to get these animals to respond to some kind of call that I'm making, whether it's with a Fox Pro or a mouth call or whatever.
Right.
That's a big part of where my passion lies. And so I'm curious, is that kind of what it is for you, or is it more like, just is there something deeper, like a more conservation mindset to it, or something along those lines? What draws you to calling in these predators?
Well, I think it's kind of changed over the years for me. It did start out, just like it did for you, just, being able to communicate with, those animals and calling them in. And, it's, and then it's got more of, onto the professional level. Well, I want to kill more, to create more content, stuff like that. But it also has the conservation aspect of it too, because I do care, about all our other animals, whether it's rabbits or turkeys or deer, elk, any of that, and we got to have balance, and that's key to me to being able to go out in the field as a woodsman and being successful, in whatever, game you're pursuing, whether, it's, any of those animals, whether it's turkey or deer or elk. And so for me, it's probably more about the conservation part of it now, because I want to be able to, have my kids and my grandkids to, share the same experiences that, you and I have over the years. And predation, if it gets out of control, like it has with, the coons here, and also coyotes. We don't have coyotes probably as bad as, some other areas, but, they still prey on a lot of stuff. So, I just want to be able to have that for, the future hunters that's going to come
Sure.
behind us.
It's super important. And you mentioned something earlier, that I don't think a lot of people think about the aspect of the predation on whether it's a nest of eggs or fawns or calves, depending on what animal it is. But I don't think enough credit is given. It's the same with any species. The raccoons raiding the turkey nests, and coyotes
Mhm.
do that as well, and so do other birds
Right.
and whatever. Then you've got coyotes that are highly effective at getting these newly dropped fawns, whether whitetail or mule deer population. Man, I saw the coolest video not long ago of these muley does stomping the shit out of a coyote that was coming
Oh,
after their
wow.
fawns. Anyway, that's beside the point. But it's the same thing like black bears and grizz. They're really they're very good and very effective at coming after elk calves in the spring, and they
Right.
know when those things are dropping. And I've seen one of the mountain lions we killed last year. We had found, if we followed its tracks back, we found a dead pregnant cow elk. And
Mhm.
so that lion had not just killed one elk, it killed two, because
Right.
she was very pregnant. I say very pregnant. She was probably halfway through pregnancy, because it was like January. But anyway, the point is this balance that we do try to create, in this balance in this ecosystem of habitat and the proper number of animals, and trying to, like, we're in up here in my neck of the woods, we're in this great big struggle with the wolf activists about
Mhm.
what is the proper amount of wolves to have on the landscape. I mean, everybody wants to just, on our side of the aisle, they're like, oh, well, we want to kill all the wolves. Well, that's just not realistic at this point. They're here, they're on the
Right.
landscape.
Right.
We're not going to get rid of them, right? They're here. So now we have to focus with it. like these adult conversations about how to manage these animals so that they don't take over and kill all the elk and all the deer on the landscape, because wolves
Right.
are extremely destructive. Now you ask a wolf activist, and they say that they're good for the land and good for the habitat and conservation, and it's just not. The facts are just not backing up their side of that story. And so
Right.
it's up to us to have these conversations and these adult approaches to management issues. Like, okay, we have to trap and hunt wolves, otherwise everything else on the landscape suffers, and we can no longer put this animal on a pedestal. Same thing with
Right.
grizzly bears. We're kind of going through this thing with grizz. These
Right.
grizz are way surpass the objective. I'm going off on a tangent here, man. I apologize.
You're okay.
But
You're okay.
the
It's
point
interesting.
is the point is understanding the magnitude of the importance of predator management, whether we are talking coyotes in Missouri or mountain lions in Montana, wolves in Idaho, whatever we're talking about. This is a very critical aspect and needs a little bit more attention by the average hunter out there. In my opinion, I feel like the average hunter, they're really interested in going out and getting a big whitetail, but they don't think about what makes more big whitetails. What do you think about that? What's your take on that side of it and hunters' involvement in predator management?
Oh, well, I mean, it's just the times we live in, and well, let's face it, a grizzly bear and a wolf, they're apex predators. They don't have, there's nothing that preys off of them,
Yeah.
so they have to be managed. And when you bring in an apex predator like that, like, say it's a wolf, you were talking about, your turkey population earlier, how it's just exploded because you feel like it's, the wolves are taking care of the coyotes. Well, you have an apex predator that's taking out a mesopredator, and it's off balance. That's where the balance is not working like it should. So in return, you're going to have to be able to, you know, take out the wolf, manage the wolf, just so you can have your mesopredators come back and take care of some of the overpopulation and some of these species that are thriving, whether it be, turkeys or a field rat or, any of those things. That's where the balance is wrong, in that equation, in
Sure.
my opinion. And so that's my take on it. And I, like I said, I'm not against habitat. Um, I think habitat's great. You got to have habitat to be able to create, uh, thriving prey for the coyote when he comes back in population. He's in a missing place right now because of the wolf. So, but that just takes too long, right? We talked about that later,
Yeah.
earlier. It's a long process, and what has to happen now is, unfortunately, is that they need to be managed now. Not let them take care of themselves, 15, 20 years down the road, because we don't have that much time. If we
There's a lot of species that will suffer if we're just playing that long game, right? And that's the thing about
exactly
conservation. Conservation isn't one thing, and that's, I hear a lot of people talk about, well, hey, I'm a hunter, so I'm a conservationist, and it's like, well, are you? Like, how many coyotes have you managed? How many mountain lion hunts have you gone on? How many wolf trap set lines have you run? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to get involved with that, because that's
right.
just not even feasible, first of all. But I always look at it. Conservation is a big umbrella. There is habitat management. Yes, there's room for habitat improvement. There's but also conservation is access management. How do we
Exactly.
how do we maintain access to some of like these landlocked western areas to get into those mountains to be able to do predator management and also hunt an elk if we want to. Also,
Right.
part of conservation is understanding the science behind how many elk should we kill, how many deer should we kill, how many wolves is actually feasible on the landscape in comparison
Right.
to the prey species that they have on the landscape. And so all that stuff, conservation as a conversation, all this tongue-tied stuff as a conversation, it gets pretty big.
And so it's
Right.
good to have little areas that we can feel like we can make, like I'm a simple dude. If there's something, if I could take a chunk of this big conservation discussion and I can just chew on one small part of it to make a positive impact, that's like what I want to do. And so
Yep.
I don't want anybody to think I'm ragging on them if they haven't been mountain lion hunting or something, by the way. But when I say that, it's like, but we have to have a discussion that, like, back in the old days, Corey, it was like, oh man, if I buy a deer license, then I'm contributing to wildlife management and conservation, and I'm making it better because that's my contribution. But the reality is anymore, that's not enough. We have to look at ways, because we have so many people, and you're going to know this more than anybody because you've got, I'm going to go back up to let me get back on your Instagram page. We have so many people that come after us, and they always start with predator management. You can get away with posting on Facebook, for example, a deer that you or somebody in your family shot or whatever. You're like, hey, here's my buck for this year. And for the most part, you're going to have a lot of positive reaction. But the minute you post a bear or a coyote that looks like, Fido, of Aunt Betty's Fido, or a wolf, you want to stir a ruckus, post a dead wolf.
Oh yeah.
Mountain lions, all these things. I had one of my hunting clients that I had on this elk hunt this year. I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to come back out and do some other sort of hunting. I'm like, man, you should come mountain lion hunting because it's a great time. It's a great cause, conservation wise. And he's like, I can't do that. Those things look too much like my cats. And he was like this big cat guy, which was funny because he's this big buck dude. He was like this big muscle beach dude, and he had 3 cats he kept talking about the whole time. And it was kind of interesting. But a lot of people like that. That's how they're going to be. They're going to they're going to have this negative reaction because a lion looks like their cat. And I have cats. I totally get it. But and wolves and coyotes look like your pet dog. And so it's low hanging fruit for the antis to be able to come in and drive this emotional wedge into the non-hunter and get support to stop us from hunting these predator species. And like with your page, I'm looking at your page, man, you're walking around with dead coyotes. Man, that's a heck of a buck you got there, by the way. I mean, you can't just, it's whitetail season, so I can't just pass up this picture without making mention. What did you score this buck by chance? Just for reference for the listeners.
Was it this one right
here? It's the one in the back. I don't know. It's in the back of your truck. Looks like you got it on like a flatbed truck. It doesn't look like you posted it very long ago.
Oh, that was just a week. That was just a week or so ago.
Yeah, big old 5x5. It looks like, or maybe a 5x6. I can't tell.
Yeah, it was pretty nice to hear. I'm going to guess I haven't scored him yet. He's probably, I'm going to say he's going to be low 150s maybe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty neat deer.
Great
He's got
buck.
some split brows, and he's got kickers that come right off the back that you can't see in the pictures. But
oh, really?
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, he's had a lot of mass. Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, he's a good buck, man. I'm kind of obsessed with whitetails right now. Anyway, scrolling through your Facebook, you've got a lot of pictures of coyotes on here, and so I'm curious, like, what kind of reaction have you got from people on like the socials and the Googles and the Instagrams and all that? Have you had a lot of negative, people coming at you for being a predator hunter?
I do at times, but I don't really play into it. And I think that's really why I don't really have a whole lot of problems with them. I'll have people comment on there, like, I hope your kids die, stuff like that. And
real nice, pleasant stuff.
Yeah. I don't really play into it. I know some guys that do, and it seems like they get more traffic, for doing that, because I think all that does is fire them up, and they go tell their, other cat loving friend, about it. And, next thing you know, they're like, what was that handle on that Instagram, and so like I said, I don't really have a problem too much, with that. And I think that's really why it is, because I don't play into it. I don't know. Maybe it's something else, but I think that's what it is.
That could be. Yeah, that could be. I mean, I played into it many times, I'm sure. People will send me some smart ass comment over a bear I've gotten or something.
Right,
And it's
right.
not like I want to, it's not like I'm ever looking to start a fight or like have this big debate. I genuinely want to maybe educate people. Like, people don't understand. I had somebody was like giving me a hard time about a lion I'd killed last year that I'd posted, and they're like, how could you kill such a beautiful animal? Well, do you say that when the lion kills 20 elk in a year? Like, is that a thing, or is it just a beautiful animal because you don't see the brutality behind it? And it's just a natural thing for them. But
Right.
people just maybe I'm always looking for ways to like educate the non-hunter. And I've said this on the show. I don't know if you're familiar with my show, but when we get into these more politically, side of like wildlife management, it's always this conversation of like, dude, we are not going to convince the anti-hunter to be okay with us killing wolves and mountain lions and whatever, even deer.
Right.
We're not going to convince him. We're not going to
Right.
convince the stone cold raised hunting Corey Groff kind of guy to join the board of PETA.
Right.
Those are not the folks. It's like my Aunt Janice who lives in Utah, like she doesn't hunt. She doesn't not hunt. She doesn't hate hunting. She doesn't hunt. She isn't a vegan, but she's never seen something die that went into the freezer kind of thing. And I'm just using
Right.
her as an example. There's millions of people out there like that. And there's nothing wrong with those kind of people. But I always want them to understand the why behind when I'm talking about, like, okay, this mountain lion here, this coyote here, this is all part of like this balanced circle thing that we're trying to create the most healthy landscape and ecosystem that we can. And I always struggle with explaining it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have
yeah.
that problem? Like I just have because I think I get so emotionally wrapped up in it, Corey. Like I'm kind of pissed I have to. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
And that's what it does. It will piss you off. I mean, especially when you can't, kind of make any, ground with somebody that, that doesn't understand, and that just, puts a mental block on it, and they're like, I don't care what you say. It's not happening for me. And that's usually why I don't, try to play into some of it. Now, if somebody wants to sit down and have a serious conversation, about it, and, be willing to listen, and because I'm the type of person that, there's more ways than one to do things, so I'm the type of person, I'll listen to anybody, if you've got a good explanation for something, let's hear it. And but most people that are anti-hunters and that don't believe in killing predators, it's like beating a dead horse sometimes. You're just not going to get through to them.
Back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway, where you can go into like a store and start making payments on something, some high dollar ticket item, and once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and it was the first weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It wasn't my dad's. It wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money, and so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it, and the cheaper scopes were all sold out, and so I bumped up to like this entry-level Leupold scope and put that on the layaway program, and had them all put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a Leupold scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the Leupold Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And Leupold, guys, you know them. Everybody knows Leupold. They've been around since like 1907. They started as like a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff, you can find it all at Leupold.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company, and I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors.
Do you remember that? I don't know if you were familiar with that proposal. Now I can't. I'm going to draw a blank on what it was called, but it was out of Oregon. This proposal to get rid of all farming or ranch, any kind of animal domestication or whatever. It couldn't be like a cattle rancher. No hunting, obviously, and no importing of meat, and no meat selling it like the grocery store. No more, burgers and whatever. Basically outlaw meat and any kind of domestication. Even like it was like you cannot breed horses, because that was considered cruel or whatever. And I tried. It was such a ridiculous proposal. It was the most hyperbolic thing I've ever seen in my life. But I tried to get like the founder of that initiative on my show, and he responded finally, and he's like, well, I would be willing to do it, but we have to have agreement on one thing, and that is no animals should ever die for any circumstance at the hand of men, and blah blah blah, or some hyperbolic ridiculousness. And I'm like, okay, so you're coming forward with this insanely, wildly, hyperbolic, filled, freaking unrealistic initiative that no humans in mass are going to agree to. This is like the 10% of 1% of the cringiest, extremist, most extreme people on earth, and then you're gonna only agree to defend it with people of like minds. You won't like discuss it with me, who is the host of a hunting podcast. That's beneath you, because you actually think that that's realistic. And that's my biggest problem, Corey, is people have this unrealistic expectation of lots of things. And wildlife management is one of them. I don't know. Frustrating, man. It is like, what do we do with these people?
I don't know. It's a radical left, agenda, in my opinion. I mean, we could go down that segue, I guess, but we probably don't need to. But that's my opinion about it. It's just radical all the way around, and
I feel like it's turning, though.
I hope it is. I really hope it is. Because, and I do too. I feel like it is turning. But it ain't turning fast enough, is it?
No, it's never going to for us. But it was like, I remember back around the time COVID was going on, and we had these leftists running around out there being like, "Oh, you got to go get your shot, and if you don't go get a shot, you are killing your fellow neighbor and fellow American." And they're out there running around talking about how great it is that men can beat up on women in sports, and anybody can use anybody's bathroom, and like there was this disinformation czar singing weird songs online that Biden had appointed, and just like, dude, I felt like we'd lost our country, and then I started getting the sense that people were starting to come to terms with the lies and like this fallacy that is extreme leftism. And then we got, last year's election and the results that came out of that. But, people are still like saying like, no, I don't want my daughter in a changing room with some boy that has a mental issue that thinks he's a girl. And all this stuff is starting to change, and people are starting to see a little bit more of the common sense aspect of it. What I'm not seeing yet is that happening on, like with the extreme anti-hunting folks. I'm not seeing them soften any. And so I'm hoping that that's kind of next on the docket, man, because it's just this stuff, they put out, like in the state of Washington, they're so unhinged over there with their weird commissioners they put on the wildlife management board and the initiatives and legislative actions they're trying to take over there. They got rid of
Mhm.
spring bear already. They were successful at that, and they just feel like they're going to be able to like steamroll all these other hunting seasons because they're a bunch of leftist extremist nut jobs that have no actual sense of reality. My buddy, he put it. What did he say on the show? I've used this term many times. Emotionally intoxicated idiots. That's what they are, and that's a great way to put it, man. So, what is kind of your dream here, your goal? What kind of messaging do you want? Because now you're going to be the host of Predator Pros. Predator
Well,
Pros is a pretty widely listened to podcast about predator hunting, and I know there's going to be a lot of tips and tactics and strategies and stuff like that. You know, how to kill a coyote in 3 steps or whatever your kind of stuff you're going to be doing.
Mhm.
What's your vision for it? What kind of direction do you want to see it go in?
Well, I'd love to just educate. That's really what it's more about for me. I want to educate, be able to tell stories that people can relate to.
Mhm.
Um, and just exactly what we've been talking about. If I can get one person, to, you know, come around on our side, with it, that's a win for me. But education, telling good stories, and just keep people, with good content. That's my goal with it. And I'm very versatile. Like I said, with the raccoons, I also, hunt fox, bobcats. So I'm a well versed predator hunter, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff like that. So
Is your bobcat season is that one of those things where you have to draw a tag in Missouri for it, or like is it hard to get a tag to be able to either trap or hunt a bobcat?
not in Missouri. I'm very fortunate here in Missouri. We don't have to have a permit. We don't have a quota. We got a thriving population of bobcats, so I can kill as many bobcats as I can call in a season. And
Really?
so yeah, yeah, we're very fortunate here. So
Wow, that's
and
pretty.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
just one state over, like in Illinois. I think Illinois just got a bobcat season just within the last 2 or 3 years. And it's on a permit. Iowa, I don't even know if they've allowed Iowa to hunt bobcats yet, in their state. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know that they do have a lot of bobcats there, but geographically, here in my part of the world in southern Missouri, we've got a very, very healthy population of bobcats. And like I said, I'm very fortunate to be able to, kill as many as I could call in a season. So
do you do any trapping for bobcats, or is it all hunt?
it's all hunt. And I'm not going to say that I haven't trapped. I trapped when I was, in high school and stuff, and did a little bit in my early 20s. But, calling is just, like what we was talking about earlier, calling is just my passion. It's
Yeah,
just being able to relate, and it's not like sitting in a deer stand waiting on a whitetail to come by. And, it, you can call in a whitetail, you can rattle in a whitetail. But they got to be pretty close to you, to be able to do that. And
yeah,
coyotes, you're kind of in and out. You go and make a 15-20 minute stand, and you can do that all day long. Make 15-20 minute stands all day long, and kill however many coyotes. And you can go back and do it the next day.
yeah,
And so I think it's just because I got so much hunting in. Um, and it was a passion. And our season, goes year by year. So I mean, we didn't have, it never shut off. So I could
yeah.
I could go
Sure.
hunt anytime, and so that's yeah, it's
Yeah, I was mostly curious. I had one of my hunters. They were from Wisconsin. Shout out to Dave. He got a really nice bull.
there you go.
But he was so excited to get back to Wisconsin because he had drawn some bobcat tag, And
Oh
so
yeah.
he could either hunt or trap it. But it was apparently it's like this real rare thing in Wisconsin to be able. And I don't know how rare it is, but or I don't know how hard it is to get that tag. But so I was just curious if it was like that where you're at. You do have to. You can't just go get one here either. But it like apparently in Wisconsin it was a big deal. He got this bobcat tag, and so I've been actually texting with him. He was here for week 1 rifle. And I've been texting with him back and forth. I'm like, have you got that bobcat yet, man? And he's like, no, he keeps giving me the slip, And so it's just interesting. Maybe one of your episodes coming up, you can, because he has to like mid-January, I think. So you can give him some calling in bobcat tips or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them to hit me up on Instagram. I'll send me a message. I actually helped a young man last year in Wisconsin that drew a tag, and he actually had some game cameras out and was catching this bobcat coming in like every 4th or 5th day. And I told him, I'm like, man, that's key right there, especially on a bobcat, if you can kind of pattern one,
Yeah.
So he asked me, he's like, man, will you help me out? I'm like, I'll do what I can. So he sent me some Onyx, maps, and I'm like, man, right here is where I set up on this bobcat, and he ended up killing it. It was one of the biggest females I think I've ever seen. I think she was like 34 or 35 pound bobcat. It was a dandy.
Really?
Yeah, he was
Heck yeah.
super excited. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I got a question for you. Like for the one thing I've seen a lot is guys, everybody gets a little down when hunting season's over, and everybody's done chasing whitetail and elk and mule deer and all these fall hunts that we get so excited about. The bears are all hibernating, and it's like, what do you do? And I don't really ice fish much, in the winter. For me, winter is for predator hunting, and I do
right.
wolf hunts. At our outfitter, we are doing these really cool wolf hunts this year because Montana just really opened up the gates in terms of what we can do strategy wise, including hunting at night and baiting wolves and whatnot. And so, I'm really excited, and I know that there's a lot of people. Again, this is a Western huntsman, right? Most of the listeners on this show are Western hunters. But
Yes,
this
sir.
is going to apply to anybody in the lower 48 or in Canada or whatever. Do you have like a basic general go-to plan when it's like, okay, we're looking at, it's January, the coyotes have good fur, and I'm bored. I don't want to watch football. I don't want to go ice fishing. I want to go try to kill a coyote. What are you looking for feature-wise on the ground, on the landscape, to kind of determine where you're going to set that Fox Pro up? To make a call as to upping your odds as much as possible to get a coyote on the ground. What does like the perfect call in, ground feature wise look like to you?
Well, I cut my teeth here in southern Missouri, and this is cattle country, and it seems like in this area, if you got cattle, you're going to have coyotes. So that's what I'm always looking for. I'm looking for a good cow pasture that has, some sort of structure around the outside of it, whether it be, a big stand of timber or a lot of brush. Coyotes like to hang out in the middle of the day, in a lot of brush. So that's what I'm looking for. That's what's key to me. Now, going out, like going out to Kansas, do a lot of hunting out there, do a lot of hunting in Oklahoma. It's kind of the same way. It's a little bit more open, but if you got cattle around, man, you're gonna have coyotes. And I would bet, like in your area, I haven't done a whole lot of Western hunting. I've done a little bit, but if you can probably find, game, if you can find elk herds, deer herds, and hunt adjacent to where those elk and deer herds at, antelope, whatever the case may be, you're gonna find coyotes. And so that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, out west, I would highly recommend those foothills, at the base of mountains that are on the agricultural interface. So like you were saying, where the cattle farms are, man, that first like mile from where the ag starts in the national forest or BLM land or whatever, they intercept right there. That's a really good little pinch point, because like you said, they really like that ranch country and those cattle
Mhm.
farms and whatnot. And so that is a, I don't know. It's a great, that's where I always catch them. And the other thing is too, Corey, like what I found is, how it's really hard to get a private landowner to agree to let you come and hunt whitetail on their property. They're way
Mhm.
more open to predator hunting. Like if you knock on someone's door and you're like, hey, yeah, in fact, I did this one where I was real sarcastic. I posted on this local Facebook group in the town I live on. I'm like, hey, I offer a free service where I come and clear out your land of coyotes if you give me access, and I close all your gates, and I make sure I leave your land just the way I found it, and I don't shoot towards animals or barns or other structures, and blah blah blah. And I got a bunch of responses. People are like, yeah, we got a coyote problem. They took
Yeah.
out our chickens, and calving season's coming up and stuff. So they're way more receptive to letting you come out and hunt that land when it comes to predation or predator management, versus like, can I come hunt here for an elk?
Oh yeah.
You're
Yeah.
never going to get a yes. But yeah, so that's what you're looking for. Now, what about strategically like a calling sequence for coyote? Or actually, before we get there, time of day. What's your favorite time of day to hunt coyotes?
Uh, I mean, mornings and evenings, obviously that seems to be when they're the most active, as far as daylight hours. Um, here in Missouri, we just got a night season about 3 or 4 years ago. So I've always been, like a day caller, because we
Mhm.
never just had, the opportunity to hunt at night until here recently. So it's just like who I am, it's just, what's in my DNA to be a day caller. So uh mornings and evenings is my favorite time. It's when you're going to get the best response, from your coyotes or your you know, yeah, you're just going to get a better response in the mornings and evenings. Now, with that said, I mean, you could call coyotes, throughout the middle of the day if you can get close to them, and that's key too. Being able to cut the distance, get in where these coyotes are hanging up at in the middle of the day. Like I was saying, if it's some of these cattle pastures, if they've got some structure on the outside, whether that be big stand of timber or a creek bottom, maybe with brush adjacent to it, that's where they're holding up. So I'll I'll crowd those areas, get close to them, and high noon, I can usually call a coyote out of some of those places.
Does rain have like a big impact on the effectiveness of your calls, do you feel like?
You
Like
mean
do
as
you
far as
yeah, like if it's raining, do you say, you know what, we're gonna stick to it, we're gonna still go out and try to hunt, or are you like, you know what, let's pack it up and wait for better weather?
if I'm in a contest, I'm gonna keep at it, obviously. I'm gonna keep hunting, but the older I get, the more I'm just like, it'll be better tomorrow. Let's go after it tomorrow. But I
Yeah.
called in the rain. When I was like really got my passion going years ago. There, how it is. When you're fired up about something and you don't have no quit, you're just going to do anything
Yeah,
possible.
absolutely.
And it is effective. You can still call in the rain. It's a little bit harder on your equipment, and stuff, especially if you're using electronics. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, yeah, I'm gonna wait for the better day.
What? Okay, and here's like the $1 million question, Corey. I don't know if you're even gonna give it to me or not, but you've got your Fox Pro, right? You
Huh?
set this bad boy up. Now on yours, do you use the little dilly whacker that flips the feather around? Do you use that?
I do, especially if I'm calling for bobcats. I always have it on for bobcats.
Okay.
Coyotes, I'm not a big fan of it calling coyotes because there's there's a couple things that'll happen. Sometimes nothing happens. They'll just come in like normal. But sometimes they'll just scotch off of it. They'll make kind of like what I would say spook off
Uh-huh.
of it. It kind of makes them alarmed a little bit. And then sometimes you just can't get them stopped. They'll just come running in so hard, and if you're not hunting with a shotgun, they'll just buzz right by, and you'll never get a shot at them. So I
I
tend to
gotta
not use it so much with coyotes.
I gotta send you this video, man. I gotta send you this video. My buddy Rob Yoder set up a Fox Pro with a little dillywhacker feather. What do they call those dang things?
We just call them a decoy, just
Decoy. Okay, so
we just call them a topper, on the decoy.
okay, so he's got the topper on there, flipping the feather around or whatever, and he's up in the high country in the woods. It's like summer or something, and this mountain lion comes in and snatches the whole Fox Pro and takes it down. Yeah, it's on my Instagram. I don't know when I posted it, but yeah, it's great footage, man. You can hear these guys laughing at this lion snatching the Fox Pro and running off with it. But anyway, so getting back to what I was going to ask you, you got your Fox Pro out there. You're all set up, ready to hunt coyotes. Again, it's winter. I don't know. You probably don't get a ton of snow out there, but I'm sure you've hunted in places where there's plenty of snow on the ground or whatnot. What is your go-to number one call on that Fox Pro that you're going to use you feel is going to give you the highest odds of getting some action?
Oh man, that's a good question, because there's so many good sounds out there in it. I mean, and you would have to split them up in categories too. If we were just talking, like, if you gave me one sound to say, hey, we're just going to give you one sound, this is going to be the one that you're going to take out, and it's life and death that you're going to have to call something in with this, I'm going to say Fox Pro's Mrs. McCottontail. It's
Really?
it's been an absolute killer for me. I'm a huge fan of it, and that's, if I could only have one sound, that's the sound that I'd put on it.
Okay, I'm just checking out this on your Instagram here. So okay, that's interesting. I need to get a Fox Pro, man, because the one I bought, this chintzy, it's like this. What's the other brand? It's like Duck Goose or something. What the hell's the name? Duck something.
The Lucky Duck.
Oh yeah, Lucky Duck. And so and in their defense, I bought the cheapest one they had online or whatever. But it just sucks. It doesn't project very far, and it's because it's the lower grade one. And so I'm in a position where I could buy like a higher end Fox Pro this year, and I want to do the Fox Pro. Which one should I get? Because they've got all these ones, but I just want one that's like really versatile. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to call in coyotes. I want to be able to maybe call in wolves if the state that I'm hunting in will allow the electronic call. And I want to be able to use it for like multiple things. And so environments, I mean, like, I hunt mostly in the winter. There's tons of snow. I don't want to worry about it being, my biggest thing is I asked you about the rain, because you know how like whitetail hunting, for example, is really good right after a rainstorm. But what I found is, like, when I'm using one of these electronic calls, the sound doesn't project very well while it's raining. And so I've never had any real success with it. So which Fox Pro do you recommend if I had, the money to do it without breaking the bank, obviously, because my wife would kill me if I bought like a $3,000 one. Would you recommend it be, kind of versatile?
The X24. The X24 was kind of just one of those calls that just didn't. I don't think Fox Pro puts quality into every call that they make. But at the time when the X24 came out, they had, a couple other units that were just like these big box units, and I don't think they expected the X24 to get as popular as what it did. But that thing, it skyrocketed, and it's very versatile. It's got legs on it that you can, stand up, project the call different areas. It's capable of hanging on a fence post or hanging on a limb. It's a one speaker. It's a HD speaker from Fox Pro. Lots of range and volume.
What kind of range can you get with that? Because I just pulled it up. For those of you listening, the X24 is like $599. You got like a promo code or anything that you use, or? You want me to
We
hand out?
I don't know that Fox Pro has a promo code right now.
I don't think they do, because they have that deal with the retailers or whatever, and so
Right.
but it's $5.99 on Amazon and Cabela's.com, and it's got that big single speaker here I'm looking at, and then the handheld remote. What kind of range can you get with that remote?
They've tested it out to 300 yards.
Okay. Nice.
But I don't know why anybody would want to use it at 300 yards. Just personally, that's not how I would use it. But I have used mine at that 70, 80, sometimes 100-yard range if it need be. But yeah,
what are you typically setting up at, Corey? Is it like are you trying to, because I know like a coyote is not an easy target.
Right.
And so you don't want to be 300 yards out. I don't care what kind of optics you've got. I mean, it's doable,
Right.
obviously, but what kind of range are you usually looking for?
I'm usually in that 30 to 40, maybe 50 steps. So I would say that, that's in that 30 to 40-yard range, somewhere's in there. And it depends on the terrain, depends on the wind, which, whatever direction the wind's blowing, I might set that call off to, one side or the other, depending on how the wind is blowing and how the terrain lays. But usually, yeah,
Gotcha.
that 30, 40-yard range.
Okay. And so, like, generally speaking, what I've done, and I do not have the chops that you do when it comes to predator calling, especially for coyotes. And I want to get like better. I used to be really, one of my jobs I had in high school is the county would reimburse you $50 for every coyote that you got in, this rural area. The farmers were having a real problem with coyotes. So I'd go shoot a bunch of coyotes and take it to the county, and they'd pay me. And that's one of the ways I made money in high school. Right. And so, one of my claim to fames too was I shot a coyote off my horse with a Model 94 lever action Winchester, rifle, open sights. And so I really felt like I was, kind of John Wayne in that whole situation. And what's funny, what I don't want people to know is it was pure luck. The Yodi didn't know I was there, and my horse startled him. He was only like 50 yards and just stood there looking at the horse, didn't realize there was a dude on the back with a rifle. And anyway, so still a cool story though. So getting back to what I was asking you there, like you're kind of setting up do you use like ground blinds, or are you getting into a stand of timber to, I don't know. Talk to me a little bit about your setup here.
I just like to have a backdrop. I'm usually sitting on the ground. Most of the time I hunt out of like a little stool, like you'll see like those little dove hunting stools.
Oh yeah.
About 18 inches off the ground. Usually that's what I hunt off of, because like in my area here, if we have a good, wet season, the grass will be pretty tall in a lot of places. So I tend to get, want to be up on a chair. I started out hunting just, right smack on the ground, putting my rear end right on the ground,
Sure.
shooting sticks. Now with hunting out of a chair, I like to hunt off a tripod. I hunt off like a carbon fiber type tripod.
Yeah,
that's been really effective for me. It's a good solid rest. But as far as, getting tucked back in the timber or anything, I usually don't. I usually try to sit like pretty well out in the open, but as long as I've got like a good backdrop, or, where I'm going to blend in with anything that's behind me, where I'm not going to be skylined, that's usually what I'm looking for when I'm setting up.
Nice. Okay, so like I know I'm gonna get one of those Leupold tripods, because I think those are just invaluable. That one of my hunters shot a bull elk at 407 yards using that tripod, and it just made it so much. I don't know. I think they're invaluable. We owe it to the animal to be as lethal as we can, and that tripod really helps with that. What kind of rifle setup are you shooting coyotes with?
I started out shooting a 22-250. That was that was my favorite caliber for a long time, and still is. I actually shot a rifle out, shot a 22-250 out, just shooting
Really?
coyotes and bobcats. Yeah,
Wow.
and then that was right about the time that the 22 Creedmoor came around, and I started shooting a 22 Creedmoor. And then I'll be honest, I'm a rifle nut. I like all different kinds of varmint rifles. I've got all different kinds of stuff. And
I
right
knew we'd
now,
get along, man. I knew we would
betcha.
get along.
Right now, I'm currently running a Wildcat. It's a Wildcat round, so it's nothing in production. We call it a 22 Parvo, and basically it's made off of a 6.5 by 47 cartridge that we neck down to a 22, and it's pretty wild. I'd compare it to something like a 22 250 Ackley improved, but you don't have to do all the work, to your brass and stuff like that. There's no fire forming or anything with it. So, and yeah, it's pretty wild little round. I like it a lot.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I'm excited. You're on board with Eastman's and
Thank you.
The team, and it's just I gotta tell you, like, I don't know what your background with Eastman's is, but it's a great group of folks that just like they sincerely care about not just those of us involved with Eastman's, but the people that enjoy the content, whether it's the YouTube channel or the magazine. And which, by the way, for the listeners, man, if you guys are not signed up for the Eastman's Elite or the magazine, that enters you into these free hunts that they give away. And like, I don't know how I really didn't put the two together for so long, but these hunts are like no joke, and they're free. So anyway, I got to throw that out there. Like, I really, folks, sign up for the magazine subscription or like Eastman's Elite for Tag Hub, all that kind of stuff. You get all that content and resources, and then you're also entered in to win a hunt, whether it's a antelope hunt or a mule deer hunt, whatever. It's like crazy. Anyway, so it's just going to be good having you on board, man. I feel like you're going to take the show in a good direction and be able to provide some really valuable, information and content and all this stuff, because clearly you are a killer when it comes to these Yotes, and I've never heard of anybody talk about calling in raccoons and stuff. So I'm really excited. Is there anything you want folks to know about the podcast coming up that you think we better not skip past?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll just say this, as far as, Eastman's coming to me and us coming together and making a deal on this podcast, I'm new to hosting a podcast, so I've got a lot of room to grow, but I live and breathe predator hunting, and so we're going to have fun with this. This is going to be a great journey for everybody that's going to be on board. I hope people subscribe, listen, because it's going to be a good time. I'm going to have some great guests starting out, and hopefully continue to have great guests. Keep doing the question and answers like Jeff has done in the past, and just, man, create some great content and just have fun. That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're going to do a really good job with it, Corey. I just,
Well, thank you, Jim.
I think it's again, I've said this many times. Every hunter should have like a predator centric podcast in their lineup that they're listening to kind of keep that top of mind, because we all love that big bull elk. We all love that big mule deer buck or that big mountain whitetail or what whitetail in the Midwest. We love those species. And that's kind of what makes us tick. What makes me tick is calling in a big bull elk that's all fired up and rutted out and whatnot.
You betcha.
But without some predator management and being able to focus on getting these predators under control in areas where they are out of control. Like for example, in our area, for many years, the elk were few and far between because the wolves were unmanaged. And finally, we figured out how to manage these animals, these wolves, and mostly that was through trapping because they're extremely difficult to hunt. I think this year's going to change that with the new Montana regulations. But anyway, you know, and ever since that took place, and the management people got serious about the wolf management, man, our elk numbers are through the roof right now. We haven't seen elk like this in many, many years. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people that are going to come at me on that one locally. They're going to be like, I'm not seeing any elk out there. The wolves killed them all, and the non-residents and blah, blah, blah. But that's because they're just road hunters. They're in there. And man, there are some really good animals out there. And that is because we have gotten those wolves under control. And when I say I have not. I'm gonna start this year working on my own wolf hunts, but you know, mostly it's been trapping that has been successful, and I don't do any trapping yet. But I've seen the benefit to good predator management through elk, and now we're seeing these elk in every drainage again, and you know, we just haven't seen it like this in almost 2 decades. Because the wolves were so detrimental on our elk populations. And I feel like, you know, kudos to the local fish and game agencies, both in Idaho and Montana, for seeing wolves for what they are and not seeing what wolves are put perspective-wise from the pro-wolf activists. And you know, putting reality in front of hyperbole and a bunch of emotionally intoxicated idiots. So yeah, man, cool deal. When do you think you're going to start zipping episodes out?
Well, I should be starting to record here, you know, before the end of the month. Like you said, we're into December, I guess. I'm thinking, you know, by January 1, that first week, we should have a new podcast out. So
good deal. Well, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good time to put them out, and that's a good time to talk predator hunting.
Absolutely.
January and February are my favorite coyote hunting months, for sure, up here in Montana and North Idaho. So, Corey, if you ever want to come out here and try shooting, going after a mountain lion or a wolf, let me know, man. I'd love to have you. It'd be fun.
Man, that'd be awesome. I appreciate the invite. I'll take you up on that.
Heck yeah, man. We can't have enough wolf hunters and even lion hunters.
That's right.
Well, cool. Stick on the line. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, obviously, the _ Corey Groff. And you can find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel on there. It's called the 417. And you can also find me on Facebook, Corey Groff.
Cool. So guys, keep that in mind. Eastman's is always just kind of, you know, pushing that needle in terms of providing content for those of us who are obsessed with the outdoors. So
that's right.
The Predator Pros podcast is going to be back up and running here shortly, and definitely check out Corey's Instagram. Will be in the show notes here if you guys want to check that out. And make sure, again, I'm going to circle back. I know I'm not trying to be annoying, guys, but if you are not part of Eastman's Tag Hub and the Elite membership, which gets you the magazine and access to like the Elk Collective, the digital, you know, online course for elk hunters, and the Deer Collective, same thing, and Tag Hub and all these things within that Elite membership, man, I tell you what, you are missing out, because you could win a trip to come out west, or you know, maybe you live out west, but you'll win a hunt, and they are serious hunts. These are really good hunts. I just can't stress that enough. So, Corey, thanks again for joining me, man. This has been a great discussion, and hopefully we'll just keep in touch, and we're gonna have to definitely do this again at some point.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, Jim. Thanks for having me on, and I hope you know, everybody gets out this winter and hunts the predators.
Yep. Tag us both. Tag Corey and tag the Western Huntsman on Instagram if you get a coyote down. We'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys. See you next time.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.